World with Addie, we've got a great show for you today. Please help me in joining the author of the best-selling book, The Future of Endangered Animals, Ross Hornback. Hi, it's so good to finally meet you.
Glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. So Ross, you've written this best-selling book on the dangers of poaching. What has the response been, and has it educated people on the dangers of poaching?
I feel like the response has been good. It's educated a lot of young people with progressive minds to go out and really change the world. And I'm really happy with how it did. It's a best-selling book, obviously, so you can't be too unhappy with that. So I'm really fortunate and really feeling good about it.
That's great. That's great. So Ross, tell us a little bit about poaching.
Poaching is the illegal hunting of endangered or rare animals. Poachers then take these parts that are valuable and sell them on the black market. Parts such as furs or ivories, stuff like that. This happens in many places in the world, and to many different species. I feel like most of them, are in Africa, and most vulnerable are in Africa. Ivory costs about $1,500 per pound, and 2 tusks out of a male elephant weighs about 250 pounds, according to U.S. Customs and Border Security. The massive payout for these poachers is exponential. They're rich, basically. This doesn't excuse them from being the driving force behind helpless rare animals being slaughtered for the greed of humankind. Us as humans should preserve these animals for our sake, for our children's sake, and for the animals' sake.
Wow, Ross, that really touches our hearts. Thank you so much for sharing. So to do research for your book, you lived in Africa, correct?
Yes, I did for 5 years. It was a wonderful experience.
That's great. So during your experience, what all did you learn there?
Well, I actually have some photos I'd like to share with you, if that's okay.
That's great. Let's see it.
So here I am. I'm hanging out with some friends in Africa. Hearing their stories and hearing their accounts on, the poaching, and, it was very eye-opening. Here's me helping out with the villages, doing some duties for them. It really takes a lot. It takes everyone in the villages to help out.
Yeah.
Here I am loading up for a safari.
Ooh.
We took a lot of pictures of some animals, and I got them here for you. Here's a hippo going to get some water. Here's a flock of zebras.
Aww.
And some running gazelles. And then we have some tall-necked giraffes.
Ooh.
Here's me over the city of Johannesburg, South Africa. And the rest are just some pretty landscapes.
Oh, that is great, Ross. What wonderful pictures.
Thank you so much.
So tell me a little bit about how your stay in Africa helped you understand poaching.
So I found it very interesting how poverty affected poachers to poach.
Okay. Can you expand more on about how poverty affects poaching?
Sure. So these young men really see no other way out. They're starving. They're in poverty. They're very poor. They want to have a way out. Some of them can't even feed their families, so they turn to poaching with the large sum of money. The black markets, such as the ivory trade, will pay a lot of money for an elephant or a rhino tusk. This is a really big factor that drives many people to poach in Africa.
Why do people want these endangered body parts?
Well, some people believe, in Africa and West Asia that they're medicinal purposes, or like they possess medicinal purposes, which is a myth. This driving factor, is one of the reasons why people want these so badly, and why they've, the demand for it's going up so much.
Okay, well, very interesting. So in your book, you talk about how poaching affects the environment.
Yes, these poachers hunt the, the most rare, the top of the food chain animals because they produce the most money. Whenever this happens, an event called the trophic cascade occurs, where, the lack of a key species in an environment will affect the animals and the plants below them that, that eat, that prey on, or that even eat the animal. So an example I include in my book would be how elephants, they've been dwindling in population in the past few years. Their main food source is brush, which is like a plant, sort of like a bush out, in today. And whenever they eat these, or whenever they don't eat these, they overgrow, and so which leads to less biodiversity in that area.
Okay. So can you tell us about the negative effects that poaching has on different groups of people?
Yes, so I wrote about 5 in my book. First being the poachers themselves. They're not doing any favors by going out and shooting endangered animals, you know. Even though it does have a massive payout and they're doing it, you know, for the right reasons to get out of poverty, you know, it still, you know, still has its consequences, like, you know, hefty fines, a lot of jail time. Many of these poachers don't even know, you know, the jail time for these actions. They're uneducated on the punishment, so they don't know. Second group would be the environmentalists. They're the people that have to go out and reverse what the poachers have done. So they're trying to get, you know, endangered animals back to healthy populations. Third would be the law enforcement. They have to go out and, you know, look for these poachers in the, you know, environment. Look for them doing it in the act, which is a very hard task to do. Fourth would be the governments. They're the people that have to lay down the law, make regulations, you know, make law or make time for poachers to serve. And fifth would be future generations. You know, these poachers, when it gets too much, extinction happens, and then, you know, after extinction you can't bring back an animal at all. So they're really doing a disservice, you know, to the future generations that, you know, deserve to see these animals as we did, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So Ross, is there anything else you'd like to share with us today?
So us environmentalists have, you know, helped bring these species, you know, back to healthy populations, preserve them, and also, you know, help them come back from the edge of extinction. For us, you know, to stop the threat of extinction, we need to stop poaching. This is where the, you know, the progressive young youth who care about these animals step in and, you know what's going on, so we can spread more awareness about this issue.
Thank you so much, Ross, for coming out for our show today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Be sure to tune in next week for our show. Thanks y'all for coming today.